making smart homes smarter, especially their appliances. That's our Techstination. Joining us from the Home Connectivity Alliance is President Yoon Ho Choi, who is also Global Head of Planning and Partnerships with the Home IoT business at Samsung. Great to see you again, Yoon Ho.
Great to see you again, Fred. How are you?
Terrific. Well, there is some news to get to, but first, let's talk a bit about the background of the Home Connectivity Alliance and what its goals are.
Very good. Yeah. So as Home Connectivity Alliance, which is a manufacturers alliance which launched at the beginning of this year at CES, when we spoke, this is an alliance of HVAC, home appliance, and TV manufacturers, so the large devices in your home. So these groups of industry got together and basically said, okay, smart home as we've been evolving has been too fragmented, has been, lots of exciting stuff, but doesn't account for some of the larger devices in the home that have a long life cycle. And so we got together and start to, put our brains together on how we address this, right? And how we make interoperability happen between us, and then what we offer back to the consumer. And so we are 9 months in. And since I spoke to you, and we're just getting ramped up for IFA, which is happening in Berlin on September 2nd. That's kind of the European electronics show. So we're pretty excited about that. And I've got a bunch of updates to tell you about that.
Well, let's hear about them. What are some of the updates? And you have some new members too, right?
That's right. So when I spoke to you, it was, I think, 4 founding members that started this. It was Electrolux, Samsung, Haier GE, and then Train, the HVAC company, right? And since then, a few others have joined. So Arçelik from Turkey, Vestel from Turkey, Residio, as well as LG Electronics, right? So these other global players have joined the HCA. And many are still, of course, in conversation, and I anticipate that there will be a few major ones joining towards the end of the year. So lots of new members, lots of honestly, why you haven't kind of heard from me since January is we've really been just kind of heads down, and we know what the mission was, and so we were just focused on getting that done, right? So I was actually pretty looking forward to actually conversing with you today, just because we've got a bunch of stuff done. And so, yeah.
Well, tell us some of the things that have been accomplished, other than adding some new members, which is a big deal. How much progress has there been towards making this a reality?
So what's happened is that in, I guess it was the beginning of July, is when all of the, it was an event in Prague, basically where we got all the technical teams together and basically ran the interoperability between all of our apps and all of our devices, right? So this is when the first sort of, prototype engineering of any app within our membership works with any of the products from our portfolio, right? So that was achieved in early July. And we've sort of honed that, and then we will be demonstrating that interoperability at IFA this year, right? So we will have a private booth. I wish you could be there, Fred. It's we have a very nice private booth. It's by invite only, but what we want to do is focus it on to kind of the industry and media and some government organizations to basically say, yeah, here are devices from many competing brands that work together with any of the apps from any of these brands, right? So it's any app, any device scenario, right? So interoperability is the first sort of major work that we've gotten done. And this is, through the hard work of all of the engineers. Literally, the engineers were meeting Monday through Thursday since we last spoke without stopping, right? So we've managed to get that done. So that's one milestone. The second one I think worth mentioning is that all the documentation, right? So all the specifications for how this interop works. So as it relates to data models, as it relates to API, as it relates to cybersecurity, those documentation is in really good shape. And so we will be going through the IPR reviews. And really, Fred, I don't know if you'll be at CES, but CES, the next CES in 23 is kind of our launch pad, right? So in 1 year's time frame, we are aiming to get this into the hands of consumer. And that's kind of our mission at hand right now.
Let's describe for consumers what this is going to mean for them. Step us through some use case scenario or two.
Okay. Well, I think oftentimes what starts to happen is when you outfit your home with appliances, and some of those appliances are smart. What you tend to do is get appliances from the same brand, so that you're using kind of the main app from whether it's an Electrolux or GE or whoever it may be. You're using kind of this main app to control a lot of your appliances, right? So, in the past, what's happened is that if you wanted to get something from a different brand, you either have to switch through different apps to control different things, and it even gets more accentuated when you jump categories from like home appliances to HVAC, right? So controlling your heating and air conditioning, right? So what's happening now is any app you prefer to use, and we want to leave that choice to the consumer, right? So whether you're using an air conditioning app or whether you're using an oven app or whatever app you're using, you can use that same app and basically add onto that app other products that you can control from that app, right? So essentially you get to use whatever app of your preference and then be able to command and control, see the status, get alerts on many of the other products from other brands as well, right? So this kind of helps to unify. Now, in the end, what we want to do is provide convenience and flexibility to the consumer. I may choose to use this app today. Over time, I may evolve and figure out that another app has more features or the look and feel of it is something I prefer. And so I may, sort of migrate to that. That flexibility is up to the consumer. But what we don't want to do is try to sort of lock you in, and then not help you, prevent you from being flexible. And so that's kind of the first one, right? So I think the HCA for us is really, from the beginning, the focus is on, what can we do for the consumer? And then every decision we make, we try to sort of, revolve around that simple question. Is this going to make the consumer's life easier, right? And oftentimes that's not easy. I mean, we're businesses, right? So we're large corporations, and it's sometimes hard to kind of do that. But the team that we have, the board directors that we have, are true leaders and true leaders within their own company, and have managed to be able to do that, right? So, yeah, I don't know what app you use, Fred, but whatever app you're using, you'll be able to control, 13 brands of appliances from an HVAC from 13 global brands that you know and trust.
Now, is it a matter of going in and when typically you would say add a device or add an appliance, that the different brands will be listed there, that you can choose from different brands?
So that final UI of how you onboard multiple brands, we're still working through that. But essentially what happens is when you buy a product, you can kind of cross-check, either on the website of that manufacturer or the appliance brand that you already have, to see which brands are going to work together. And basically, once you know that it's going to work together, you bring it in, log on to the actual sort of, you build an account with each of the brands, right? So, and once you it's a one-time event. Once you do that, and you oftentimes, I don't know how long you use your appliances, Fred, but refrigerators anywhere from 5 to 10 years or even more. These devices will, once you onboarded, it's there, right? And it's available to you from any of the apps. Yeah.
So you would perhaps you'll need the app from the manufacturer to sign up and get things going. And
That's
once
right.
you've done that, you can control it from
The app that
any
you,
of the
that's right.
partner apps.
That's correct. And the reason, there's a very specific reason we do that is because these devices you use for such a long time, we want to make sure that your usage and your warranty, all of that is covered, right? So we want to make sure that you have an originating point with the original manufacturer, so that you can claim your warranty, you can get it serviced, and so on. Yeah,
It seems
it's mhm.
I was going to say, what are some of the toughest things to get done here, other than getting everybody on board and saying, "Okay, let's work together," which is, you are competing very often at a very high level.
I'm glad you asked that question, Fred, because I've been thinking about, in kind of preparation for our conversation, I've been thinking about what was really the hardest thing. And it's frankly the hardest thing. This may come as a little bit of a funny thing to you, but a surprise to you, but it's the hardest thing is the the eagerness to be cool and like to be sexy and like to do this kind of like flashy new thing, to not do that for home appliances and these large investment devices. That actually was the hardest thing, right? I think the approach we take is almost a slow and steady, as it relates to privacy, as it relates to physical safety of these devices. We do take a very steady approach, and we want to make sure that, because our devices are going to be in your home for 10 years, we want to make sure that this has, we've thought that through, right? So me being a product person, me being a technology person, I think there's a natural tendency for us to kind of like slap on the latest and greatest and flashy kind of feature. But I think not doing that was one of the hardest thing. And I think the maturity of the board, that I learned a great deal from them. I think that's where, they're all seasoned folks, and I think they're all, experts in their industry. And it was both refreshing, and I think comforting to know that we are building something for our consumer that will, stand the test of time, right? So for us, that, I don't know if that makes sense to you, Fred, but that is, as a tech person, something not easy to do.
And very often, the apps are connected to voice control,
Mm.
whether it's Google, Alexa, maybe Apple. So tell us, does that throw a monkey wrench into this at all, or is it going
Oh,
to
no.
make things easier?
No, I think that's just the way we see it is just kind of multiple layers. So the voice agents, of course, are and with Matter, right? So with what's coming up with Matter, I think this will work as a complementary kind of mechanism, right? So Matter is going to help solve a lot of the connecting of so many sensors and cameras and the hundreds and thousands of like IoT devices out there, right? So that's going to be great. I think a lot of the who are driving Matter are the Googles and Apples and Amazons, right? So we will continue to work with them as we've been working with them. Some of our devices work with their voice agents, so that path will continue on, and I think that's a path that we see lots of opportunities in for specific features, right? But I think for the long run, right, I think in terms of making sure that we have a basic connecting platform that allows us to be with our consumers for an extended period of time, be able to service it, be able to let our consumers know if something's going on, and of course, as you can probably imagine, Fred, the opportunity in terms of predictive maintenance, right? The opportunity in terms of energy management, that's a great opportunity for us. that only gets, amplified when multiple brands to work together, right? So energy is one I just want to talk about. So if you, yeah, I don't know how much time we have, but I want to make sure we cover the energy part because that's an important part of HCA.
It is. Tell us more about what the goals are in terms
Yep.
of energy.
So energy is like this, right? So with everything that's happening today with not just the war in Ukraine and just the energy crisis, the immediate one, but there's an energy crisis total, right? I mean, there's a lot of EV vehicles and more products use energy, right? And as this landscape unfolds, I think we are realizing that HVAC appliances make a huge portion of the spend in the home, the low energy load in the home, right? It's upwards up to like 70+%, right? So now what's been the problem in the past is the whole home energy. It's the whole home through inverters and so on, smart inverters and so on. You get the entirety, the spend of the home, but you don't have a device to device layer, that level of fidelity. What that means is you understand what you're spending in the home, but you don't really have an opportunity to actually, control these devices or command these devices in a particular way so that you can actually save energy, right? So we see this as an opportunity when, if let's say, Samsung devices are energy, smart energy, it works with that platform but it's only Samsung products in your home. You're going to get a very partial picture. When you have kind of the 13 global brands all participating in this, the whole picture of your home, the energy spend device by device becomes a lot more accurate, right? So then, depending on the time of day, how you run, even your refrigerator, right? Right. It's like at night, overnight when we know that it's not, when the device knows that you're not opening and closing the door, there's a way to run it so that it's more efficient, right? All of that matters over time, right? It makes a huge difference over a number of years, and immediately in months, right? So what we want to do is work with energy providers, work with energy storage systems, solar companies, that whole energy landscape. We will continue to investigate how to partner with them so that we can actually contribute to, the sustainability and really money savings for the consumers, right? So we see this as a kind of our next big step. So by the end of this year, we're going to get the interoperability working. Next year's focus, and then next year, when I'm speaking to you in end of August, this time around, I hope I'll be able to unveil some of the accomplishments in energy, right? So that's our focus for
Terrific.
next year.
Consumers would want to know, okay, am I going to have to buy all new appliances for all of this to work?
That's one of the criterias for setting up HCA was that our devices are in consumers' home, and it's very, very bad scenario if I have to tell our consumers, your whole kitchen, great, it's smart, but you're going to have to buy a whole brand new one too, or a bunch of upgrades to make this work, right? So one of the things we focused on is just on the connectivity layer. We've squarely focused on cloud to cloud. And this allows us to make sure that all the legacy devices that are smart already in our consumers' homes, and there's, millions and millions of them, right? So all of those devices, making sure that the legacy devices work with the current, the new sort of HCA interworkings was a critical part of our decision. And this is why it's a little bit different when you have manufacturers that build products that are long life products. The thought process is actually a little different, right? And so that's one of our strong traits and one we're really proud of. Yeah.
Terrific. Is there a place that people can go to for more information?
Absolutely. So homeconnectivityalliance.org is our general website, and there's contact info. And over time, as we get closer to CES, you'll see a lot more sort of information flowing through. And so, yeah, I look forward to speaking to you, Fred, at CES. And I don't know, last year was kind of crazy. I don't know if you're going to make it this year, but
Hoping to. Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. The website, once again, is homeconnectivityalliance.org. Yoon Ho Choi, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks, Fred. Take care.